Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about two questions from overseas about how our government works here in the U.S. If you're an American, it's worth watching because if you were lucky enough to get a civics course, it's probably been a while. The first question is, why can't the Democrats get anything done? They have control. Our government is divided into three branches. The judicial, which is the Supreme Court and the other courts. The executive, which is the White House and the agencies under it. And the legislative. The legislative is divided into two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Together, they're referred to as Congress, but that can get confusing for people overseas because a lot of Americans, particularly those in the South, will say Congress when they are just talking about the House of Representatives. Currently, the Democrats control the House, the Senate, and the White House. So it seems like they should be able to move legislation forward. The problem is that in the Senate, it's currently split 50-50. 50 senators on each side from each party. The Democrats have the tie-breaking vote, which is the vice president. So theoretically, they have control. However, in the Senate, there exists a thing called the filibuster. I think it comes from a Dutch word meaning pirate. But anyway, it's a process that allows a senator who is in opposition to a bill to talk and talk and talk and delay and eventually stop a bill from getting passed. To show the extremes to which this can go, back in, I want to say 1957, Strom Thurmond talked for literally 24 hours straight to delay passage of a civil rights bill. Of course, it had to do with race. It's the U.S. So to stop a filibuster, you don't need 51 votes. You need 60. So they don't have that many. Now, the filibuster is not in the Constitution. It's a rule from the Senate that could be changed in theory. Democrats are unlikely to do that because at some point the Republican Party may regain control of the Senate, and a few bills later the country is going to look like a scene from A Handmaid's Tale. So it's unlikely they're going to get rid of that. Now, they do have other options, like budget reconciliation. I did a video on that only requires 51 votes, but those mechanisms are limited in scope. For real legislation, they need 60 votes, not 51. That's the holdup. That is the holdup. The next question is just hilarious to me. Why don't your leftists behave like leftists? Because Democrats aren't leftists. You have a few people in the Democratic Party that are left-ish, like AOC, Bernie, people like that. Most Democrats are center-right on the international spectrum. Here in the U.S., they are left because they're left of Republicans. But on the real scale, they're center-right. They're the centrist party. They don't behave like leftists. They don't wield power like leftists because they're not leftist. I know the media in many ways keeps saying stuff like radical left. I am radically anti-authoritarian, and I'm left-leaning. A lot of my friends are radical left. They dislike Biden more than most Republicans dislike Biden. Biden and most Democrats are not radical left. They're not even really left on the international spectrum. So they don't act like it. Yeah, it would make sense with these rules in place. If it was a real leftist party, they would say, okay, filibuster it. I dare you. Because every one of our bills has something in it for the people. So when Republicans don't want to pass a relief bill, they let them filibuster it. Let them go in there and talk. And while they're in the Senate talking, Democrats from the House will be in front of cameras saying, you know, we sent over a relief bill that has $1,400 in it for each and every one of you. Republicans are over there talking about it in the Senate for the third day straight. You know that executive order that Biden signed about clean energy? We know a lot of y'all in the energy sector are worried about your jobs. So we were going to turn it into legislation, include extended unemployment, retraining opportunities, all of that stuff. Republicans are talking about it. And make them pay for it politically. You know, if the Democrats were a left party and reached out to the working class the way left-leaning parties do, they'd be able to do this. Because they are typically centrist, because they are typically status quo with a little bit of leftward push, they don't wield power like that. They don't make the attempt to do that. Because for the most part, they're status quo. They're not going to attempt any radical changes. Now, there are some bills that they have that include radical changes. But unless they start behaving like a truly left party, they will never get through the Senate. Because they don't need 51 votes. They need 60. So, and if you're in the U.S. and you're wondering why Biden's agenda is moving so slowly, this is why. That's why there's been so much discussion over Senate rules. Because with the filibuster, they have control, but they have control of the legislative agenda. They don't have enough to force legislation through. They need support from the Republican Party. And the Republican Party is going to take the stance of just being obstructionist. That's what they're good at, and it's what they are going to attempt to do. From overseas, this may look weird, because it is generally people who are perceived as working class that support the Republican Party. Republican Party talking points, and I'm not saying this to be mean, are designed for those people who are politically illiterate. They don't know what's being said, and they don't know the way their representatives vote. Oftentimes, most times, people who vote Republican are voting against their own interests. So, I wouldn't hold your breath for a whole lot of super progressive changes under Biden. It's going to be slow going. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.